What if the woman who abandoned her newborn twins unknowingly returned years later to work under their roof? And what if the man she once left behind, broke, desperate, carrying his daughters in a wheelbarrow, ended up building an empire from love alone? This isn't just a story. It's a journey through pain, forgiveness, family, and the power of a father's silent promise. Meet Samuel Blake, a single father who raised twin daughters after his wife walked out with nothing but her pride. He begged, he worked, he believed, and his daughters, they rose. Together, they built something bigger than any diploma, richer than any bank account. A restaurant called the Blake Table, born out of hunger and held up by hope. But what happens when the mother who vanished comes back through the kitchen door? This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and a twist that will leave you breathless. Stick around, because this true-to-life tale will touch the deepest parts of your soul. The cries of twin babies echoed through the tiny one-room home as a woman shoved clothes into a worn-out bag. Her face was set like stone, eyes filled not with tears, but with bitterness. "I'm done, Samuel," she said coldly, never once looking back. "You and those babies are no longer my problem." Samuel Blake stood still, cradling their infant daughters, Maya and Noelle, in his trembling arms. "Please, Vanessa," he whispered. "They need their mother. Just look at them." But her hands kept moving fast and angry. "I didn't marry you to suffer," she snapped. "Since you can't give me the life I deserve, I'm out. And don't come looking for me. I don't care what happens to any of you." With that, she zipped up her bag and slammed the door, hard. The sound rang through the room like a gunshot, followed by silence, and the soft, innocent cries of 2-3-month-old babies. Samuel sank to the floor, his back against the wall, the twins still in his arms. The love of his life had walked away, without so much as a goodbye to her daughters. He was now a father, and alone. Everything had once been picture perfect. Samuel had a good job, a steady income, a family, until the day he lost everything. When his company downsized, Samuel was one of the first to go. From that moment on, Vanessa changed. The meals got cheaper, the apartment got smaller, and the love, it disappeared completely. But Samuel, he stayed, not for her, for them. He rocked the babies gently, their tiny bodies bundled in thin blankets. "I may not have money," he whispered, kissing their foreheads, "but I swear on my soul, I'll be the best father in the world." They were too young to understand, but maybe, just maybe, they felt his promise in the rhythm of his heartbeat as he held them close. The next morning came like a slap of reality. No food, no formula, no savings. Just 2 crying infants and a father with no options. But he refused to let despair win. He rented a rusty wheelbarrow from a local vendor, tied his daughters securely to his chest, and walked to the market. With each step, heads turned, some with pity, some with judgment. A loud woman sneered, "When you were enjoying the bed, you didn't think about responsibilities." Samuel didn't respond. Not because her words didn't sting, but because they didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was Maya and Noelle. That day, he pushed heavy sacks, carried crates, and loaded bags under the scorching sun. Every coin he earned, he counted. Twice. One kind elderly woman handed him a folded bill and whispered, "This is for the babies. You're doing a great job." That night, with blistered hands and an aching back, he walked into a pharmacy. He explained everything. The pharmacist listened and helped him buy powdered milk and baby medicine with every cent he'd earned. At home, under a flickering bulb, he fed his daughters. And for the first time since Vanessa left, they stopped crying and smiled. And, "Samuel," he cried instead, but this time it wasn't because of pain. It was because, against all odds, he was doing it. Years passed. But Samuel Blake never stopped pushing forward. Each morning he strapped Maya and Noelle, his precious twin daughters, to his chest and rolled out his old wheelbarrow into the marketplace. Rain or shine, his rhythm never broke. Carry, push, earn, and return home with just enough to survive. People started calling him the man with the twins. Some shook their heads in pity, others admired his grit. But Samuel wasn't interested in opinions. He was building something no one could see, a legacy stitched together with sweat, sacrifice, and the kind of love no money could buy. One day, everything shifted. It was Maya and Noelle's 18th birthday. Samuel had baked a tiny cake with borrowed ingredients and candles that flickered more than they burned. As they cut the cake, laughter filled their modest home. For a moment, it felt like the whole world paused to celebrate these two brilliant, resilient girls. Then came the real surprise. "Daddy," Maya said, eyes glowing with excitement. "We passed." Noelle grinned. "We got accepted into medical school, both of us." Samuel froze. He looked at their admission letters, his fingers trembling, eyes wide with pride. Maya had scored 325, Noelle 341. They had done it. His girls were going to be doctors. He laughed loudly and lifted them into his arms. "My daughters, my future doctors. I'm so proud I could walk into the city and shout it to the world." But that night, alone in his room, the celebration faded into silence. Samuel sat on the edge of his bed and stared at the letters again. This time, with pain behind his smile, he had no money, not even enough to register one of them, let alone both. He clutched the papers to his chest and whispered, "God, after everything, now that they've made it, I've failed them." He didn't cry. In front of his daughters. Never. But that night as they slept, he knelt quietly by his bedside and wept like a man drowning in shame. "Please, Lord," he whispered through choked sobs. "I have nothing, but you have everything. Help me. My girls deserve a chance." His fists hit the floor as he pleaded, and from the other room, Maya and Noelle, wide awake, buried their faces in pillows, their hearts breaking. They had never heard their father cry before. The next morning, Samuel did something he had never done before. He left his wheelbarrow behind. Instead, he walked to the home of a wealthy businessman in the neighborhood. When the man opened the gate, still in his silk pajamas, Samuel dropped to his knees. "Please, sir," he begged, "take me as your houseboy. I'll wash your clothes, cook your meals, clean your house. Just help me send my daughters to university." But the man just scoffed. "2 medical students? That's not child's play. I'm not doing that." Samuel tried again and again. 6 wealthy homes, 6 rejections, each one colder than the last. When he returned home, Maya and Noelle noticed his silence. He didn't say a word for 2 days. His shoulders slumped lower. His smile disappeared. But when he finally spoke, it was with courage carved from heartbreak. "My daughters," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I promised you the world, but now I can't even give you tuition." Maya moved first. She wrapped her arms around him. "There's nothing to apologize for, Daddy." Noelle joined, her voice soft but strong. "Whether we become doctors or not, you've already given us more than any degree ever could." The next day, the twins made a choice. They deferred their admissions. Then, hand in hand, they stepped into the city to find work. Most doors shut before they even finished their sentences, but one clean, humble restaurant gave them a chance. The owner, impressed by their grace and honesty, offered them jobs as servers, and so began their second journey. Each morning, Maya and Noelle greeted customers with kindness. They served food with respect. They worked hard, never once complaining, even when sore feet and long hours tried to steal their smiles. Customers noticed. Tips grew. The girls saved every coin. At night, they would return home, spread their earnings on the floor, and count them together. Samuel would sit quietly nearby, holding back tears as they prayed, "God bless the work of our hands." 7 months later, something amazing happened. With their savings and a small loan from a kind supplier, they opened a modest restaurant. Of their own, it wasn't much, but it was clean, warm, and filled with soul. The food, delicious, the service, unmatched, and the story, inspiring. They named it the Blake Table, a tribute to their father, the man who never gave up. They used social media to advertise. Word spread like wildfire. People came not just for food, but for the story behind it. Twin girls, raised by a father who carried them through fire, now serving meals with heart and hope. One night, as they were closing, Maya noticed something. "Naomi," she whispered, "look." Under a chair sat a sleek black briefcase. They opened it. Inside, a thick stack of US dollars and high-level corporate documents. "This must belong to someone important," Noelle murmured, but instead of keeping it, they brought it home. When Samuel saw it, he nodded. "You did the right thing. Whoever lost this will come looking," and he was right. The next morning, a man in a tailored suit and luxury car stood outside the restaurant, anxious, searching. "Did you see a black briefcase?" he asked nervously. Maya smiled and handed it to him without hesitation. The man looked relieved. "Thank you," he said. Then he left. No reward, no explanation. Noelle joked, "He could have at least left us $1." Maya laughed. "You want dollars now? I'll start calling you Lady Dollars." They both laughed, and life went on. But what they didn't know, what no one could have known, was that the man in the luxury car wasn't done, and he was about to change their lives forever. 2 days after the briefcase was returned, the man in the black car came back. But this time, he wasn't in a rush. He stepped out of the vehicle in a crisp navy suit, his expression calm and deliberate. He smiled at Maya and Noelle, who stood at the entrance, wiping down tables. "My name is Alexander Grant," he said warmly. "And you two, you saved my family." Before the girls could respond, he gestured for them to follow. He took them across town to a large, newly renovated building. It had a signboard out front, still blank, as if waiting for a name. "This is yours now," he said simply. That briefcase contained more than money. It held documents connected to international investments, including family trusts and legal records. If they had fallen into the wrong hands. He didn't finish the sentence. "You protected what I didn't even realize was vulnerable. And I protect those who protect my family." The girls were speechless. They tried to thank him, but he simply nodded and drove away, leaving behind more than a building. He left them with a future. They rushed to the market to find Samuel. He was sipping a cold glass of kunu beside his wheelbarrow. The twins ran to him, practically dragging him from his seat, their voices filled with joy. "Daddy! Daddy! You have to see this!" He laughed, confused, as they guided him to the new property. "It's ours, Daddy!" Noelle cried. "Mr. Grant gave it to us. For real!" Samuel looked at the building, then at his daughters, and for the first time in years, he wept openly, not from pain, but from overwhelming joy. That night, they celebrated. The Blake Table moved to its new home, bigger, brighter, filled with hope, but fate wasn't finished, because the next week, she walked in. She looked tired, fragile, her clothes worn, her eyes heavy with quiet desperation. "I'm looking for a job," she said softly to a staff member. "I can wash dishes, mop floor, anything." The staff called Maya and Noelle over. The woman bowed her head slightly. "Please, I just need a chance." There were no openings, but something in her voice, something in her eyes, made them pause. They gave her the job. They didn't know who she was. Not yet. The next day, Samuel visited the restaurant. He stepped into the kitchen and froze. There she was, Vanessa, his ex-wife. The mother, who had walked out without looking back, was now washing dishes in the kitchen of the very daughters she had abandoned. She didn't see him. He turned around, heart pounding, and stepped outside. A moment later he sat Maya and Noelle down. "You have a new kitchen helper?" he asked quietly. "Yes, Daddy," Maya replied. "Do you know her?" He hesitated. Then, slowly, painfully, he said, "She's your mother." The words hit like lightning. The room fell silent. "Our what?" Samuel nodded. "You've never seen her face because, after she left, I destroyed every photo. I couldn't bear to look at her again." The girls stared at each other, stunned. Together, they walked into the kitchen. When Vanessa turned and saw Samuel, her face drained of color. She dropped a plate, shattering it on the floor. I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know. I had no idea." Samuel stepped back, letting his daughters take the lead. Vanessa dropped to her knees. "I am your mother. Please, forgive me. I was young, foolish. I made mistakes." Maya's face hardened. "You don't get to say that now." She picked up a stack of cash from the counter and placed it in front of her. "This is more than you've worked for." "Take it, leave," Vanessa sobbed. "Please." "You're not our mother," Maya snapped. "Our mother is Aunt Clara, the woman who fed us, held us, loved us." Noelle, quiet until now, stepped between them and gently touched her sister's shoulder. "I know you're hurt," she said softly, "and so am I. But please don't send her away, not like this." Reluctantly, Maya agreed. Vanessa stayed, promoted from dishwasher to matron, overseeing staff. For a while it seemed to work. She dressed better, spoke softer. She greeted customers and smiled with practiced grace. But slowly, the cracks reappeared. She began scolding waitstaff for small errors, criticizing chefs, barking orders. She insulted Samuel behind his back, calling him lazy, weak, a freeloader living off his daughters. The atmosphere changed. Customers noticed. Staff grew tense. The joy in the restaurant began to fade. Maya and Noelle knew something had to change. One night they sat Vanessa down. "This behavior has to stop," Maya said firmly. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "I'm your mother. You don't tell me what to do." Maya kept her voice level. "You're here to help, not destroy everything we built." "And what about your precious father?" Vanessa hissed. "You give him money for nothing, but—" "Me, I get crumbs." "If you ever speak about our father like that again," Maya said sharply, "we'll have a real problem." Vanessa stood, her voice rising. "You don't love me. You're just managing me." Samuel, when told everything, listened quietly. "She's still your mother," he said finally, "but if you let her stay, she'll undo everything you fought so hard for." The next day, Maya and Noelle told Vanessa she could no longer work. At the restaurant, her reaction was volcanic. "I knew it, that stupid old man poisoned your minds." She stormed out, but the twins didn't abandon her. They opened a small shop in front of her rented home, stocked with supplies, giving her a way to earn and survive. Not out of obligation, but out of the same compassion their father had raised. In them with, and once she was gone, the restaurant bloomed again. Customers returned. Staff smiled again. The warmth came back, and the Blake table became more than just a restaurant. It became a symbol of grace, of starting over, of second chances done right. But even with the business thriving, Maya and Noelle hadn't forgotten their original dream: to become doctors. And in the quiet moments between shifts, as the restaurant hummed with laughter and food, a question began to return. Did they still want to wear white coats, or had they already become healers, just in a different way? The Blake table was thriving again. The laughter had returned. The smells of home-cooked meals drifted warmly through the air, and the two sisters who once washed dishes to save every coin now stood at the head of a business known across the city. Maya and Noelle were no longer the girls raised in struggle. They had become women forged in fire, calm, steady, and unbreakable. But with success came a new chapter. Suitors began to visit. Some brought flowers, some brought family, others just brought nerves and borrowed courage. And one evening, under the golden lights of their restaurant's garden patio, Maya and Noelle made a decision, one they had always dreamed of. "Let's get married," Maya said with a playful smile. "On the same day," Noelle added, "so we never forget it." Samuel smiled when they told him. His little girls were becoming brides. His heart was full, but beneath his smile they saw something else, a quiet worry. "You'll both be married," he said gently. "But what about me? I'll be alone." Maya reached for his hand. "Not if you don't want to be." That night, the sisters introduced him to Elaine Rivers, a graceful, kind woman who worked at one of their new branches. A widow with 2 children, Elaine was patient, soft-spoken, and wise. She had always spoken highly of Samuel, even before knowing who he was. They sat, talked, shared memories, laughter, and pain. And slowly, Samuel's heart, once closed off, began to open again. 2 months later, on a bright and beautiful Saturday, 3 weddings took place at the same church. Maya married her love, Noelle married hers, and Samuel married Elaine. The ceremony was filled with tears and cheers. Customers, neighbors, and staff came in numbers. The aisle was lined with white petals. Laughter rang under the high ceilings. Aunt Clara, now affectionately called Mama Clara, walked proudly as Mother of the Day, honored as the woman who had stood in when no one else did. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a celebration of survival, of grace, of a family rebuilt, not by blood, but by choice, sacrifice, and forgiveness. Later that night, at the reception, Maya and Noelle stood side by side and raised their glasses. "We once dreamed of becoming doctors," Noelle said softly. "But life had a different plan." Maya continued, her voice steady, eyes shining. "This restaurant, this family, this journey healed more than sickness. It healed us." Their words weren't rehearsed, but they were perfect. "We may not wear white coats," Maya added, "but we serve hope every single day." As the music played and guests danced, Samuel sat quietly beneath the stars, watching his daughters twirl in white dresses, laughing like they did as children. Elaine reached for his hand. "They turned out all right." Samuel chuckled. "They turned out extraordinary." And as the night drew to a close, one thought settled in his heart like a quiet prayer. This was more than enough. Coming next. But what happens when old wounds resurface and a stranger from the past returns with a story no one saw coming? Stay tuned for the next chapter in the Blake family legacy. She walked away when her babies were crying. He stayed, carrying them through storms, both real and emotional. And they grew into women who served not just food, but second chances. The Blake family didn't win the lottery. They didn't inherit wealth. They inherited pain and turned it into purpose. They forgave without forgetting. They gave without expecting. They rebuilt without bitterness. But let's not forget what this story really teaches us, that not all mothers are made by birth. That true fatherhood isn't in words, but in the weight a man carries without ever complaining. And that sometimes the greatest revenge is not to hate, but to rise. If this story made you smile, cry, or just feel something real, share it. Let the world know that kindness can build empires, and love can rewrite destinies. Don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts. What would you have done if your mother came back like that? Subscribe for more cinematic stories that bring light into the darkest corners of life.